Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to video number 3 in Review 4A for the IM Curriculum Algebra 2 at Valonia High School, spring semester of 2024. The table shows the monthly revenue of business rising exponentially since it opened an online store. Month since online store opened, monthly revenue in dollars. All right. Describe how the monthly revenue is growing. So what are we going to do here? We're going to see that we have two values, just like we did on the graph. And we're going to say we know that our revenue, I'm going to put this one R of T since it's revenue. How about that? Equals your initial value of R, I'm going to call it R of 0, times our growth factor per 3 years here, 90,000 over 72,000. Second value divided by first value, raised to the T over how many years passed between those two? 3 years. That's our expression. It didn't ask us for that. It's asked us describe how the monthly, that's 1 month, revenue is growing. So for part A, we're going to take that factor, that growth factor, 9,000 divided by 72,000, and we're going to raise that to the 1 over 3. We're going to plug in 1 month here. That's going to equal, whoops, I didn't do that in parentheses. Raised to the 1 divided by 3. So it gets 1.077, right? So if we're going to talk about how this is growing per month, we're going to say monthly revenue is growing. Monthly revenue. By, what percent is it growing by? 7.7% each month. That's part A. B says round equation represents the revenue R as a function of months M since the online store opened. We already did that part, didn't we? We wrote that to start with. That's part B. Find the monthly revenue 1 month after the online store opened and record the value in the table. Explain your reason. So for part C, we're going to plug in 1. R of 1 equals our R naught. What was our R naught? 72,000, right? Times 90,000 over 72,000, and that is raised to the 1 month over 3. So we're going to type this in. We're going to say, let's go and do this. How about this? 72,000, whoops, times, now I'm going to go up here, and we'll bring all this back down. I think that's going to be all in there, right? Yeah. It is. Hit enter. $77,559.65. $77,559.65. $559. $77,559.65. Explain your reason. I think we explained it right here, don't y'all? And then explain how we can use the value of R of 1 to find R of 4. This is our growth factor each month, right? So we can take R of 1. And how many years is it from year 1 to year 4? So we could multiply R of 1 by 1.077 raised to the 3rd power for 3 years, right? The number of years. So if we did that, we can multiply 1.077 raised to the 3rd power times R of 1. That would give us R of 4. Let's go ahead and do that and see what happens. We get that, it's R of 1, right? Times 1.077 raised to the 3rd power equals 96,000 $890.89. If we had to fill in the table, we would say 96,890.89. Painless, y'all. Pretty painless. Look at this, 1,500 insects. Grows exponentially by a factor of 3 every week. Since all equations, select all equations that represent or approximate the population. So P is the population of T equals the initial value, 1,500. Growth factor is 3 because it's by factor of 3. And each week, this says as a factor of days, as a function of days. How many days in a week? So this goes to T over 7. Right? This is definitely 1 in it. This one doesn't look like 1, does it? No. This is not 1. This one, because of the properties of exponents, if you have 3 to the 1/7 raised to the t, you multiply those exponents, that becomes 3 to the t times 1/7. And that's like t over 1 times 1/7, and that's t over 7. So that's 3 to the t over 7. So this is 1. And 3 raised to the t is definitely not the same as 3 raised to t over 7, is it? No. So those two are your answer. Here's a graph that represents g of x equals a times b to the x. Find the values of a and b. A is your initial value. When x equals 0. B is going to be the y value of the second one over the y value of the first one, right? So we're going to write like this. G of x equals our initial value 10 times second y value is 1.25 over 10. Now raised to the x over, how long was it from 0 to 1.5? It's going to be 1.5, right? That's almost what we want. But we just got to have an x up here. So we got to use what we used here. And we got to write this as 10 times 1.25 over 10 raised to the 1 over 1.5. That's all raised to the x. So our b is going to be this value raised to the 1 over 1.5. We're going to do 1.25. Oops, I got to put in parentheses. Divided by 10 raised to the 1 over 1.5. That's going to be our b. That's 0.25. So it's going to be 10 raised to the 0.25 to the x. That's what g of x is. That's 8 minutes and 40 seconds into the video. That means it's time to cut off for the attention span, and we'll do video number 4 in a minute. Thank you for watching. Hope